Shri Natwar Singh ji.
Mr. Speaker, sir, we are meeting here today under the stress of momentous events. I listened with the profoundest respect to the Honorable Prime Minister, whose vocabulary has not been impoverished, but although it seemed that the sources of his moral inspiration had dried up. He said much and he conveyed very little. Sir, your statement begged all the questions and answered none. The central thesis of your statement was flawed on account of the absence of a moral dimension. As far as the Congress Party is concerned, our views on this subject have been made clear in the Congress Working Committee, which met on the 14th of May and endorsed the statement of the Congress President, Srimati Sonia Gandhi, which reads as follows. I'd like to place on record in this formal meeting of the Congress Working Committee the pride we feel in the achievement of our nuclear scientists and engineers for putting India's nuclear capability in the front rank. We recall with equal pride the successive Congress governments have ensured India's nuclear capability remains up to date so that our security is not compromised. The nuclear question is a national matter, not a partisan one. On this, every Indian is united. The Congress Party remains committed to a nuclear weapon-free world, non-violent world, and that remains the sheet anchor of our policy. The Congress Working Committee reiterates India's commitment to peace in the region so that India and our neighbors can move ahead in accelerating economic growth, eradication of poverty, illiteracy, and improving the living conditions of all citizens, unquote. Now, sir, your statement and the accompanying document, which are more or less the same except there is some expansion, the longer version of your statement. You said that the House is aware of the different reactions that emanated from the people of India and from नहीं स्टेटमेंट से पढ़ रहा हूँ नहीं हुजूर नहीं जरा अरे
बैठो
अरे अरे
प्लीज कुछ
अरे चाचा बैठो
प्लीज
मैं बड़ा
डोंट डिस्टर्ब
बहुत अदब करता हूँ आपका मगर जरा ये जरा पेचीदे मामले हैं और जरा इनको जरा गौर से स्टडी करिए तो फिर आप समझेंगे कि यहाँ क्या हो रहा है। मैं इज्जत करता हूँ आपकी उम्र की, पर आप इस बारे में कुछ चर्चा करेंगे तो सुनने को तैयार हूँ मैं, मगर जरा सुनिए जरा। नाउ सर, व्हाट हैज हैपेंड इज
अगला एक्सपेंशन में हो जाएगा।
the nuclear tests are behind us. And if the Honorable Prime Minister and the BJP had simply said that in our manifesto, we had said that we will have a review of the defense policy, of the strategic policy, there will be a National Security Council which will examine this, we will then reevaluate our policies and then we will go for nuclear weapons program and exercise the nuclear option. Now one could have lived with that, but no. The reason given is, in his letter to President Clinton, as has been said by Shri Indrajit Gupta, that there is a security threat. Now sir, we are entitled to know from the Prime Minister, when did this threat begin? Did it begin on the 19th of March, when you took over? Or did it begin on the 8th of April when you gave the green signal to your scientists? And how serious was the threat? Have the Chinese forces moved onto our borders? Have the Pakistanis mounted an exercise which threatened the city of Amritsar? Now, I think we are entitled to ask these questions. because when the threat perception, you have had no time to review it, obviously between the 19th of March and the 8th of April. And if you have had time to, the House would like to be told that these are the findings of the high level review of India's security concerns. Now what is sad is that you preside over a government of 18 parties, while you have experience of being Foreign Minister of India. The sad part is that the parallel political and diplomatic management of your action on the 11th and 13th has been highly unsatisfactory. And what have we succeeded in doing? Today there is a question about the visit of the Chinese Chief of Staff to India and his discussions with you. And you have said, and the answer of the Minister of State says, and I'm afraid I'm going to read it and you ought to listen to it. The Prime Minister welcomed the positive trends. This is today's date, today. The Prime Minister welcomed the positive trends in India-China relations and spoke of his desire to continue the momentum of our relations. He requested General Fu to convey his good wishes to President Jiang Zemin, President Zhu Rongxi and Chairman Li Peng. The Prime Minister expressed the view that improvement in relations between two countries should be based on the recognition of and respect for each other's concerns, and understanding based on mutual respect between the two most populous countries in the world will contribute to peace and security in Asia and in the world. The Prime Minister drew particular attention to the Border Peace and Tranquility Agreement of 1993 and the Agreement of Confidence Building Measures in 1996, and said that India needed a stable environment in order to concentrate on raising the level standards of people. There was some problems along the line of actual control because it was not delineated, etc., etc. Now, sir, how do you reconcile this with your letter to President Clinton? And how do you reconcile this with the pronouncement made by the distinguished Defense Minister, who, if I may respectfully say so, is a human El Nino, who from time to time comes out with the most outrageous statements? Now, on the 5th of May, Mr. Fernandez said that we will undertake a review and then come to a decision about whether we will exercise our nuclear weapons or not. It's a matter of fact. But you had already given the green signal a month earlier. So obviously the Defense Minister had not been taken into confidence by you. I do know that the distinguished, your colleague sitting on your right probably was, and I will just come to what he has done, the damage Mr. Advani has done to our relations with Pakistan with his unbridled statements. And I will just come to them because he had mentioned proactive policy. Do you know what it means, in fact? That you will have hot pursuit into territory of India occupied by Pakistan. Hot pursuit. And you know what the consequences are going to be? The Security Council will be summoned within a few minutes of your hot pursuit, and condemnatory resolution will be passed with mandatory sanctions under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter. There are 54 Muslim countries in the world. We have good relations with those countries. We have massive trade with them. 1.2 million Indians live there. They send vast amounts of money. What is going to happen to all those people? Have you thought through as to what your proactive policy means? You say that you are running a government on consensus. Well, you haven't asked us. You haven't asked anybody here that you are fundamentally changing the nature of India's foreign policy and defense policy. And without a review, without a reference to this House, you represent 25% of the vote of India, so do we. You represent 1/3 of the strength of this House, and so do we, and more than that. You were not consulted. And you have taken a profound step. And I come to you, sir. You were asked in the interview in Outlook The government in its national agenda has promised a strategic defense review before inducting nuclear weapons. Why was this not done? Your answer, there was no such promise in the national agenda, but there is. And the Outlook has quoted what exactly you have said. I'm not saying that you forgot what you said, but I think you better look at your facts. Then, sir, I'd like to draw your attention to different reactions of the government, and that it not only tells that this decision was right, but also that the country wants a focused leadership which attends to national security needs. Now, who was unfocused? For 25 years, since 1971, there has been no security threat to India. The similar agreement has ensured that there is no conflict with Pakistan. And your own visit began the process, although you did succeed in 1979. Rajiv Gandhi's visit, Mr. Lee Peng's visit to India, Mr. Venkat Raman's visit to China, Mr. Jiang Zemin, whom you have quoted in the answer of the Minister of State, that there is peace and tranquility on the border. Forces have been withdrawn. Not a single incident has taken place which has raised the temperature except by the pronouncement of your ministerial colleagues, and I would respectfully submit that a period of silence on their part would be most welcome. Because these are extremely sensitive issues. And do you know the reaction of the Chinese? You've read it, Prime Minister. You are level-headed, you are wise, you are balanced. But what a crew you are carrying with you. And what is the reason? That he's a very nice young man, very engaging personality. Why have you asked him to brief the press on foreign affairs? It's a great pity. Because you will know, I have been 45 years dealing with foreign affairs, I am still learning. And you have a young man who sits on judgment and pronounces, I don't want to use the phrase, China is a great country. We have in 2000 years had one conflict with them. And no in-depth analysis has been done why that happened. We'll do it. But you agree, and this House passed a resolution, and Jawaharlal Nehru said that eventually the border dispute with China will be settled through negotiation. But the antenna has been upped. Day in and day out statements are made by people who ought to know better. Your Minister for Parliamentary Affairs wanted the Pakistanis to say, name the date and the place for the conference. Well, sir, all I can say is that I'd hate to be in your shoes. Because if this is the kind of irresponsibility that is being witnessed by cabinet ministers and being exposed, there are 125 foreign missions in Delhi. They report every day as to what is happening. And if you have read today Muchkund Dubey's article, you say that you are a nuclear weapon state. Well, good luck to you, but read Muchkund Dubey's article and you will find that is going to be very, very tough. And the heat is already being put on you. US sponsored access to contain India. What is the access? Which your actions have produced? Pakistan, Washington, China. And how they are going about it? Times of India of today. Please read this carefully and ask your colleagues. You are very pleased with your telephone conversation with Mr. Tony Blair. Mr. Tony Blair is the author of the document that has been produced by the European Union, and it says that you better get ready because we are going to put the heat on you, left, right and center, and you haven't got a prayer going for you in the international community. You took comfort that the G8 did not do anything because Mr. Yeltsin was there. But in the European Union, he's not there. And this is the true language of Mr. Blair, who drafts these things very well. And I don't want to repeat this, but please read it. Mr. Muchkund Dubey, it is going to be extremely difficult for India to muscle its way into this world nuclear order. after the latest Pokhran test, India has declared itself a nuclear weapon state and made a number of moves to be recognized as such, etc. Government controls were expected. The recent 5 tests themselves have not given India its nuclear deterrent. By these tests, we have only displayed our clear weapon capability in a much higher technological level. In 1974, we still have a long way to go before acquiring a credible deterrent. Profoundest respect to our scientists, but you know, sir, inside, this is not the latest technology. I don't want to say more about it because they are very sensitive matters. Then, Mr. Sharda Prasad. In other words, whatever the detonations might have done for the world's perception of India, the most Pokhran India will not be very different from the pre-Pokhran one. We still remain a poor country with a few troublesome toys. They are all very sober, level-headed, highly experienced, knowledgeable people who are writing about these matters. We are not for a moment saying that where the security of India is concerned, that we are going to be in the second row. We will be with you, in front of you, when the security of India is concerned. But please tell us where your threat is coming from and why you have unilaterally overturned the national consensus which has persisted for 25 years without any debate. You have not carried out your statutory review. And look at in 1996, it's now said everywhere that you, sir, had decided to detonate the bombs. Only you lost. You resigned after 13 days. But everybody is saying, and I'd like you to deny it, that you had no such intentions. And what happened then? Where was the security environment deteriorated? But it now transpires that you had planned these in 1996 when there was no Gauri, no Ghazni, and no George. Now, sir, if you had honestly told the House that from 11th of May, I am not going to be Atal Bihari Vajpayee, I am going to be Atom Bomb Vajpayee, you would have accepted this. It's perfectly understandable. Nobody is minimizing the action that we have done, but the justification that you have provided. And Mr. George Fernandez has thrown into the dustbin 10 years of hard diplomatic work. The working group set up by Deng Xiaoping and Rajiv Gandhi. All these matters were discussed, including missiles. And the Chinese said, you object to your giving to Pakistan, we'll give it to you. Ask Mr. J.N. Dixit, who led the team. Send for him and ask if anything new has happened in these years. So let us differentiate between these two. Nuclear weapons test, tremendous tribute to the country, tremendous tribute to our scientists, and tremendous tribute to Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi and Narasimha Rao, and to Satish Gujral and all the other prime ministers who said, go ahead with this program. But Mr. Gujral has written a letter to you, and he is very kindly, in a spirit of great fraternal relations with the Congress party, sent us a copy. And Mr. Gujral has said on 22nd of May to you, sir, it is indeed unfortunate that in the past several days a number of statements have emanated from various quarters on how we intend to deal with the CTBT issues, the proxy war in J&K, countermeasures to deal with the sanctions, etc. All in all, taken together, these varying postures create the impression of growing aggressivity and virtually that we are on the brink of military confrontations. I hope such courses of action had not been mediated by you. He is a former Prime Minister and he has been Prime Minister longer than you have been, sir. I hope we have a change of Prime Ministership soon, but you have been in office only two months. In two months. No, we'll see. We will see. we'll see. We will see. We will see. We will see. We will see. We'll see. Now, what I am trying to say is that the former Prime Minister and Mr. Devi Gowda has also written a letter to you. Mr. Narasimha Rao, who has himself said that the nuclear option was open. Repeatedly we said so for the last 30 years. Implicit in it was that it could be exercised. There was a national consensus on keeping the nuclear option open. There was no consensus on your exercising that option. And what I'm trying to say is that if you had thought through this, and instead of inventing that the security environment deteriorated, and in your statement you have not referred to it, because what you have said doesn't indicate that you are yourself convinced that a security threat exists. And if it does exist, I think this House is entitled to know where that threat comes from. Now, sir, finally, I am glad in your statement you said that you are for nuclear disarmament. Although you didn't mention Rajiv Gandhi's name, but it is implied. I also know that the response to it was not enthusiastic for a variety of reasons, because the Russians had also made a proposal of Gorbachev. Rajiv Gandhi had said that all nuclear weapons should be abolished by 2010. Gorbachev came up, if I remember correctly, with a plan that there would be 2005. And then the Soviet Union disintegrated. Soviet Union had 10,000 nuclear warheads. You have 6 or 5. The Soviet Union disintegrated. Why? Because the economic costs for weaponization was too excessive. The Americans made sure that Russia's budget after the Second World War never came down below 25% of the GDP. Now, we know what Pakistan has been saying. We know the Chinese have told you that please give concrete evidence of it. I am very glad in Pokhran when you went, you said that you would like to have good relations with China, and so did your principal secretary, who was the first Indian on whom Mao Zedong smiled after 1962 when he was our charge d'affaires there. So he knows what the facts of diplomatic life are. I am very glad that you have, sir, in your wisdom, pulled back from the brink, and that you have made assertions and pronouncements in which there is a ray of hope that the damage that has been inflicted on India's foreign policy, India's relations with China, India's relations with Pakistan, India's relations with the EU, India's relations with the United States. I am not for a moment saying that we should succumb to any pressure, certainly not. The 5 nuclear weapons powers, their hands are not clean. They have no business to pass judgment on us. They have no business to impose sanctions on us. And if they do, we will be with you to tighten our belts and march along with you to oppose those sanctions. That's not the point. The skill is required that instead of increasing the number of your enemies, please increase the number of your friends. That is the fundamental law number 1 of diplomacy. And let me also tell you know it, sir. Advani ji probably knows it, but the hotheads in your party don't. There is a difference between foreign policy and diplomacy, and it is very subtle and it is profound. Foreign policy is what you do. Diplomacy is how you do it. You injured both. Foreign policy, for the first time, questions are being asked. Everybody will ask these questions. And on diplomacy, what do you expect your diplomats to do? On the one hand, you write to Reagan. On the other, your Minister of State says that we want very good. To Clinton. What did I say? Oh, Reagan, the same thing. Doesn't really matter. What I am trying to say is that please, we will give you full support where the nation's security is concerned. We will give you support if sanctions are put on us. But when you make a pronouncement, in all seriousness, the Prime Minister of India, that these tests have been undertaken on account of a threat, then you must, in fairness, tell us where the threat comes from, how serious it is, and how imminent it is. But your Minister of State's answers to questions say there is no threat from China. It's honky-dory. Our relations are good. Please reconcile the contradictions. The country wants to know. And I am grateful to you, sir, for giving me this opportunity to speak in this debate. Thank you.